Good morning, 7th grade students, and many thanks to Ms. Cole and Ms. Johnson for showing your interest in teaching your kids at school about refugees and the humanitarian work. I would like first to sincerely apologize for being late in submitting my feedback, but I had gone on a work mission to the Americas, and I in fact underestimated the heavy workload there and the time difference we had, so I could not get back to you earlier. I have received your questions, and I will try my best to answer them all. I will look at my screen as well at one point to just clarify and check the questions again and the names. We have a first question from Damore Boller. And the question is if I enjoy my work. I actually love working with UNHCR and doing what I'm doing. If I have not loved my job, I wouldn't have lasted one day for the past 29 years. It is, for me, it has been a great privilege and honor to be able to serve people who are in need, people who had no choice but to flee wars, violence, and fear of persecution, people who seek protection, including life-saving aid, shelter, food, health, water, and ensure their basic rights and dignities are respected. So, of course, work comes with some frustrations, sometimes disappointments, but this is very normal in any workplace. I have another question from Jade, who says, if I like working there, definitely. And if you ask me if I repeat it again, I will repeat it again and again. It is a wonderful experience, and as I said, a privilege to be able to serve people who are in need of our help. Mikael, you asked me about my age and when I started thinking of this job. Personally, I have always wanted to help people. At home, I wanted to help my mother, my sisters. In the neighborhood, I was always keen to help the elderly. At school, volunteering a few things, doing some initiatives from my own. At work, I was also part of a council, and for me, I always felt sad to feel and see people who are sad in their lives and who are in need. But to be honest, I never imagined that I will be working in an agency like UNHCR, who is mandated to protect and find solutions to people in need of protection. When I finished university and I was old enough to understand about the work of UNHCR, I joined, and it has been the biggest plus in my life, and it gives me so much satisfaction to know that I can make a difference in the people's lives with the work we do. So now we go back to other questions. I will try to group them because some of you have raised more or less similar questions, but I will mention the names because it will be nice to remember those names. And again, I apologize if I misspell your names because some of them are new to me. We have Lyric, Deja, Delia, Gabe, and Amudra. You're asking how many people do we take in a year, how many refugees are there, how many refugees we can take in every day, in a month, and overall. Now, seeking asylum is a fundamental human right, and everyone has the right to seek asylum and protection at any given time or place. So we actually don't say, wait, this week we had enough numbers, we should stop taking refugees. Or today we had a lot, so let's not take. No one wants to be forced to leave their country of origin. They don't want to be forced to leave their dear ones, their homes, their schools, their lives, and become refugees in a strange place. And we wish that no one is forced to become a refugee or to leave everything behind. But reality is that many are forced to leave their countries and seek shelter and protection elsewhere. So around the globe, and I'm giving you some statistics, at the end of December 2022, our figure is 100 million people of our concern. Now, with the Ukraine war, it's slightly more. We don't have the exact figures, but approximately we have 100 million. And this number includes those who have fled conflict, violence, human rights violations, and persecution. In 2021, we had some 90 million, and because of the war of Ukraine, now we have reached above 100 million. This represents almost 1% of the total population on Earth. And we do not decide how many refugees are there in a day or a week or a month or a year. It really depends on the situation that happens, the wars that take place, the conflicts, the violence that are happening, unfortunately, in the globe, in different parts of the region, in the regions. Erica, you asked where are most refugees from? 72% are from just 5 countries. We have Syrian Arab Republic, we have around 6.8 million. Venezuela, we have 5.6 million. Ukraine, we have 5.4 million. Afghanistan, 2.8 million. And South Sudan, 2.4 million. With the Ukraine situation, a lot of Ukrainian nationals are moving still from the country, and others are seeking shelter and protection in other parts of their country where there is no war and there is no danger to their lives. So the numbers, as I said, can get a little bit higher. But you can imagine that 100 million people who are fleeing persecution is almost like a country, like an island. And all these people don't leave their country because they would like to. They are forced to leave. They are forced to let everything behind and go and seek protection for them and their loved ones. Madeline Mackey, you asked me how have you ever had a child refugee come in without parents? Yes. The answer is yes, and many times. I personally met so many children fleeing without their parents. It's not easy. It's heartbreaking. And the first time I saw children in front of me, I personally cried because I could not imagine how can kids live without their parents and their loved ones. But they left, they fled their country because of protection. If they stayed longer, they might have been killed, or they might have been detained, or they might have been abused. At the end of 2021, of the 98 million forcibly displaced people, an estimate of 36.5 million are children below 18 years of age. 1.5 million children were born as refugees. So you have them fleeing with their families from their country to a place to provide them protection, and suddenly these children are born there. So they are born as refugees. If we talk about this number, 36.5 million, it actually represents some 41% of the total number of the forcibly displaced people. So it's half of the population. We normally call child refugee without his or her parent or an adult who accompanies them, unaccompanied or separated child. Sometimes children have no choice but to escape, either alone, fearing violence or persecution, or they can live with an adult who is not their parent, just to put them in a place where they can seek protection. Children, and you may agree with me, they're more vulnerable than the adults. They fear greater risks, they fear abuse, exploitation, detention, child labor in some countries. They force kids to work, and they are often discriminated against and denied access to food, shelter, housing, health services, and education. Girls among those unaccompanied children are of higher risk of being abused or being exposed to domestic violence. So children have greater needs than adults when it comes to providing them with protection and assistance. Dexter, you asked, what is the oldest refugee I have ever dealt with? Well, I will tell you the youngest refugee I have ever dealt with. The youngest refugee was a few weeks born. He came with his parents, and also an image that I don't forget. It was a very nice baby boy, born, quiet, and the real big kids, but they were still minor, I have dealt with were 13 years old, twin brother and sister, who left their country to seek protection, and they wanted to reunite with their parents who were in the Netherlands. It seems that the parents had to flee the country, but they were in high risk of taking the kids with them. The road was so dangerous, so they left them with a trusted relative. And once they arrived to the country of refuge, the Netherlands, they applied for family reunification, and they asked their kids to join them. So the brother and sister came to our office, and we provided them with the support, the assistance, the protection, with food, shelter, till their paperwork was materialized and they were able to fly to their parents. But that took quite a long time. I think they met with their parents after 2 years. And it was a very touching moment when they reunited with their parents. The oldest refugee I dealt with was around 75 years old. And they were a lovely couple as well. Anyone can become a refugee. This is what I want to pass here. Irrespective of the age, the gender, the race, the nationality, the religion. If you have been following the sad news about Ukraine and you see stories, you will see kids, you will see elderly, you will see young men, young women, families, also separated families, fathers who have stayed in the country, but mothers who have left with their children. So there is no age specific to when you become a refugee. Any one of us can become a refugee if there are reasons that forces us to become one. Hayden Hall, you asked for documentations that refugees are required to have. Not all refugees hold documentation when they flee their country and home. Some are lucky to have some sort of documents, and these documents could prove their identity, who are they, their name, their age, but others, in fact, and many of them flee with nothing on them. Maybe just a jacket and some good shoes, but They don't take documents with them. They leave birth certificates, school certificates, university certificates, passports, identity documents, everything. And they're just lucky to have managed to escape their lives if they manage to do so. So we do not rely on documentation. And if we face refugees who have no documentation whatsoever, we handle their cases in the absence of such documents. Okay, now, this is my second part because the video is long and I had to interrupt it to make sure that the first part is well received by your teachers. Now, we have questions from Gillian, Michaela, and Gabrielle. More or less, you have asked same questions. Do refugees suffer from trauma they have experienced? Do most refugees face dangerous travels when fleeing, like the ones in the book we are reading? What is the worst condition that a refugee has arrived in? I want to say that yes, definitely refugees, when they flee persecution, war, they do face trauma. Many of them could lose their dear ones during their flight. Some of them might lose their belongings, their homes, their identity. Many times they have literally minutes to flee their place and loved ones, and they don't have even time to say goodbye. So they do come with a lot of traumas and sadness. You have others who might have experienced detention, violence, abuses, and you can imagine that when you face such unpleasant experience, it comes with trauma. What's the worst condition that they have arrived? They could, as I said, they could have lost their dear ones during the harsh winter conditions. They could be arriving frozen, have not eaten for a very long time, have not drunk anything for a very long time, sick, with a lot of health problems, weak. And you have also the dangerous trips that they have to go through, whether it's through the sea. Maybe they risk their lives to reach shelter and safety. So you have people who might be malnourished, people with a lot of health problems, mental problems as well. And when they arrive, we provide them with the support also of member states where they arrive. We support them with basic assistance. Basic assistance could be the food, first aid, health support. Some of them could be hospitalized for quite some time. We provide children as well with some important vaccines because they might not have had this opportunity and it's life-threatening. Food is essential, and also shelter. Some of them would have maybe walked for many days to reach safety, and the first thing they need is to provide them with shelter, a place where they can sleep, and a place that they can feel the warmth, or even be far from the heat, because when they arrive, it's not necessarily arriving in a place where it is hot. It might be super cold and it might be super hot. So it really depends on the weather conditions. And that's it for these questions. Melina, you asked about the salary. What's the average salary for working for UNHCR? Unfortunately, I cannot give you the exact figure. And why is that? Because the salary is calculated individually for every country and even for every city. So for example, if the US, we have an office in Washington, we have an office in New York, the salaries are different based on the cities and the cost of living. You have also another factor where in the organization, as any other United Nations organizations, we have staff who are hired as international staff. Those international staff are the ones who have a rotation system, meaning today you see me, for example, in Geneva, in our headquarters. Before that, I was in the United Arab Emirates, and before that, I was traveling to many other operations. So it really, my salary depends on where I'm working and for how many years, and my experience. When I joined the organization, the level of joining is not the same level when I become senior with white hair and an experience of 29 years. So it really varies from one country to the other one. And plus, I want to say that if you are keen and interested to join the United Nations work, whether it's UNHCR or any other organizations that do humanitarian work, the best way is to start a career with an internship. And maybe Ms. Cole and Ms. Johnson will explain a little bit more what does internship mean. But during summertime, you have some universities that encourages students to do some kind of an internship with a workforce, and some students decide to work with an international organization. You get paid. Sometimes you might be unpaid, but you get some kind of social benefits. But nowadays, we pay the interns. As I said, it's hard. Sometimes it's heartbreaking. It has a lot of emotions. And the fact that you move from one place to the other, from one country to the other, is exciting. But maybe some of you might say, no, I want to stay home. So the internship program allows you to see the workplace. What do you do? And if you fall passionately in love with the work you do, then you might wish to pursue your career. I will give you a tip because I was a student like you, and then I became older. I finished my university, I finished my master's, and then I started working. It is very important that you love what you do, because loving the job you do and the work you do, whether it's humanitarian, whether it's finance, whether it's social, whatever you do, if you don't love it, you will never excel in it. And that's very, very important. So give it a try. If you liked the book that you read about the refugee, you might wish to read more about the work we do. Nowadays, everything is digital. So if you go to our UNHCR website and you Google and you search for stories, videos, you will find a lot of resources that gives you a more idea on what we actually do in different parts of the globe. And by the way, we have some 137 countries where we operate globally. So you have us in the Americas, you have us in the Middle East, you have us in Africa, you have us in Europe, and you have us in headquarters, which is in Geneva. So you can, if you wish to learn more about UNHCR and more about refugees and see the stories of these people who flee persecution and have a little bit of a feeling, please do visit our website. I can send the link to you through Ms. Johnson and Ms. Cole, and I will be more than happy to provide you with more information if you wish. Kylie, you asked if we have ever turned away refugees. If so, how many? No, we don't turn away refugees who need our protection and humanitarian assistance and solution. We never have turned those who are in need and those who are of our concern. Sometimes people come and say, I'm a refugee, And when we do assess their case, we find that they are not a refugee. And this is a whole department, a whole work speciality. If people are found not to be a refugee, we inform them that they do not fall under our mandate, and hence we cannot protect them and find solution for them. For those, we don't necessarily, it's not turning them away, but they are not of our concern. Dariana, you asked what country do refugees want to go to the most? Normally, they want protection and safety. A place where they can call home, far from home. A place where they can start building their lives, where they have access to health facilities, they have access to work, their kids can go to school, they can basically live a normal life because their country, they cannot go back home. I just want to say that there are some families and some refugees who want to go to specific countries, and sometimes it is because they have family members in those countries. So for example, if you have somebody who has relatives in the US and they have nobody in Germany, we try to reunite them with their family members in the US. Why is that? Because family unity is important. And sometimes when you have your family around you, they can provide you with the support you need. The psychological support, the mental support, and also the social support. They can guide you in how you can live your life, how can you find a proper job, how can you be part of the wider society. So in those situations, we do try to reunite them with their relatives and family members. And you have others who have certain skills that match certain countries. So for example, if some of them are specialized in some kind of work that relates to scientific research that could be only found in a selected number of countries, or they have languages that they know. For example, somebody has learned to speak French and they don't speak English. We try our best to help them to go to a place where communication can be easier for them. So if there are countries that speak French for somebody who speaks only French, we try our best to match them. Sometimes that's not possible, so you have many refugees who start learning language, and you have refugees who go to language classes to learn a new language of the country that they will be living in. And we have a lot of them who are very much eager to learn the languages and be able to integrate in the society. This is my third video, and I hope I will manage to finish all your questions. Kian, you mentioned how long do many refugees stay in refugee camps? I want just to say that not all refugees live in camps. Some live in cities, while others in camps. We, as a UN refugee agency, we encourage and advocate with member states to allow refugees to live in an urban setting that allows them to actually integrate better in the society and ensure that there is a social cohesion and people are able to integrate with their neighbors, people are able to benefit and also give back their skills to the society. So this is where we try our best to encourage that refugees actually live in cities and able to integrate with the locals, with the nationals of any country. Others who live in camp of no choice. Sometimes we have member states who are strict. They don't want them to live in cities or move around. They can spend their lives in camps. Many kids even are born in camps, and many of them grow older, and they even die in camps. I'm just giving you an example of a case where we have Afghan refugees who live in Iran and Pakistan. They have been living in refugee camps for the past 40 years. So if, for example, you have a refugee 30 years old who have fled Afghanistan and went to Iran, today he or she would be 70 years old. If you have family members who fled and the wife gave birth to her child in a camp in Iran or Pakistan, then these kids who were born there today might be 40 years old. So the longest protracted situation we have had is Afghan refugees. I'm just giving you an example. Afghan refugees in Iran and Pakistan who have been living there for 40 years. Are refugees scared to restart their lives? I'm sure they are. Refugees are like you and me. They're people. They feel like us. So imagine yourself changing a school, changing a class, or moving to a new city or to a new country. I'm sure there will be a lot of excitements for new adventures, but there will be also fears. There will be some kind of fears from the unknown, the uncertainties. So imagine refugees being forced to do that and having fled persecution and violence. I am sure they have those fears. But you know what? It's not easy to start a life, but having worked with a lot of refugees in so many regions, in so many countries, I can say that refugees are also strong. They have resilience, and they have the desire to live and become better. So they are fear in them, but there are also the strength in them at the same time. I hope you understand what I mean when I say that. Is it difficult for refugees to find work when they get to their new country? Many find it difficult because of so many barriers. Sometimes language is a barrier, sometimes matching skills is a barrier, or university or school degrees. So you have, for example, a doctor who has worked in his country and has a degree. When he or she goes to a new country of their refuge, of their protection, the certificate that they have had in their country might not be accepted. So either they have to study again from scratch, or they have to work in areas where are less than what they were. For example, a doctor might not be able to work as a doctor in the new country. He or she may be accepted to work as a nurse or an assistant doctor, or maybe not in that field or at all, and they may have to choose to work in a different field just to be able to survive and be able to support themselves and their family members. Others might be lucky and they might find job opportunities as well to work and start building their lives. What do refugees do for fun? Those who have the chance to have a place and a place that can provide them with opportunities, they can have fun like you and me. They can go practice sports. Many of them are very good athletes. They play football, they play basketball, they play tennis. And by the way, we have in the Olympic Games, we have refugees who have participated. We have one of our Goodwill ambassadors. Her name is Yusra Mardini, and she is one among so many Goodwill ambassadors. She was swimming in her home country, and she joined the Olympic Games and swam with the refugee Olympic team. There are other also opportunities for them to have fun. Some of them go for excursions, some of them play social games, some of them have maybe tablets and they can play Nintendo. Tablets. Some refugees are deprived even to have a toy. And I wanted to tell you that If you encounter any refugee child in your life, or if you know of anyone, just engage with them. Maybe you try to include them in your playing. Maybe you invite them to play with you. Maybe if you have a spare of good sport shoes that you don't want, and it's small on you and you would like to donate it, I am sure that there will be many refugees who would be in need. Or if you have a toy that you don't want anymore because you have other toys, you have got older and you don't use the toys that you had when you were a kid, if they are there at your home and you would like to donate, search. There might be kids who are really not able to have the toys that we all have in our homes. My son and I, every year around Christmas and Easter, what we do is we clean up the room, and we start putting toys that are in great condition, but we don't want them anymore. We wrap them and we send them to charity organizations who can actually give them to those in need. And most of the time we give them to refugees. This year, my son, for example, decided to donate a lot of his books, stories that he no longer wants, and he decided that the best gift to do, so Santa is pleased with him, is to actually provide other kids who don't have this opportunity with these toys. So think about it and think how you can maybe help a refugee to be able to integrate within the community. A kid who feels a little bit isolated, to be part of your neighborhood and be part of the toys and the games that you do. Are refugees treated equally when they arrive in the country? Not all. Normally, we would like and we hope that they are treated equally, because as I said, refugees are human beings like you and me, and no one wants to be discriminated, and nobody wants to be feeling that he or she are not equally treated. But sad reality is many feel and actually witness a lot of discrimination, and we try basically to help them to overcome that. We don't work only with refugees, we try to work also with the community, that hosts them, because it's part of social cohesion, part of integration. There are many refugees who have been able to get to know their neighbors through cooking classes, where they start cooking for each other, they start learning about their cultures, about their histories, and they mingle. And when the society is aware of the refugees, the skills they bring, the positiveness they bring in a society, and refugees likewise, then I think they are better integrated in any society. They're welcomed, as we say. So yes, that's definitely the formula of and the success of integrating refugees in a new country. How do refugees who want to go back to their home countries once they are safe again get back? This is Lyric who has asked this question. Yes, they can go back to their country once the conditions for their return are conducive and it is safe for them to return back home. We assist refugees to return back home if they decide that it's time for them to go back home and the conditions help them. We normally do what we say go home visits. So if it's safe for them to return, they go and are refugees treated equally when they arrive in the country? Not all. Normally, we would like and we hope that they are treated equally, because as I said, refugees are human beings like you and me, and no one wants to be discriminated, and nobody wants to be a feeling that he or she are not equally treated. But sad reality is many feel and actually witness a lot of discrimination, and we try basically to help them to overcome that. We don't work only with refugees, we try to work also with the community, with a community that hosts them, because it's part of social cohesion, part of integration. There are many refugees who have been able to get to know their neighbors through cooking classes, where they start cooking for each other, they start learning about their cultures, about their histories, and they mingle. And when the society is aware of the refugees, the skills they bring, the positiveness they bring in a society, and refugees likewise, then I think they are better integrated in any society. They're welcomed, as we say. So yes, that's definitely the formula of and the success of integrating refugees in a new country. How do refugees who want to go back to their home countries once they are safe again get back? This is Lyric who has asked this question. Yes, they can go back to their country once the conditions for their return are conducive and it is safe for them to return back home. We assist refugees to return back home if they decide that it's time for them to go back home and the conditions help them. We normally do what we say go home visits. So if it's safe for them to return, they go and see what is it back home, and if they feel confident and comfortable to go back home, then we assist them for their return. Sometimes it can be returning by boat, sometimes it can be returning by planes. Normally what we call this as voluntary repatriation. They repatriate back home, but it has always to be voluntary and conducive, and the conditions are conducive enough for them to return so that their lives are not on risk. If their lives are in risk because they want and they decide to go back home, we do not encourage them to do that. And if they still wish to go back home, unfortunately, this is a decision they have to make on their own. We do not support returns to a place where there's still war, conflicts, persecution. We do not support it at all. But we do support those who would like to go back home. I'm just giving you an example, and here I'm looking at the numbers. During the first 6 months of 2022, we have assisted 162,000 refugees to return to their country of origin, while at the same time we have assisted 42,300 in resettlement. Resettlement means that people are moved from one country of asylum to a resettlement country to help them to have a better life. So I know that this is the list in front of me. I have answered all the questions that have been sent to me by Ms. Coles and Ms. Johnson. I hope you found my answers interesting, but also informative. You can reach out to me if you want more clarifications. I will be more than happy to respond. I want to take this opportunity to tell you that what I have said earlier, but I will repeat it. Refugees are human beings like you and me. If you want to give them a chance, if you want to start helping, maybe you start slowly. Maybe you can include them in your activities, in playing with you, having play dates with them. Maybe at one point you can try their food, they can try your food. And as I said, just treat them as human beings. And I really, really, really hope that at one point in life, when you become older, one of you can reach out to me and say, Nadia, I just wanted to let you know that I started working with UNHCR, and I do remember you when you spoke to us on what does it mean to be a refugee, and what do we do as a humanitarian organization. I wish you all the best, and thank you once again for the very interesting questions you have raised. And please do continue learning. Please do continue being curious to know what is happening in the US, but also globally, because you have such a privilege to have also teachers who give you the opportunity to learn more. Learning and education is a powerful tool for you, for the future, for now, but also for the future. Bye.